Hi everyone, my name is Jarek from Genius Gecko and welcome to another video series. In this series we're gonna talk about two applications. We're gonna do the comparison of two applications, and I think that these two are the ones that we get the most questions about. So we're gonna be talking about Advanced Roadmaps and BigPicture. So we're gonna look at those two applications from different perspectives and discuss how they work, what are their advantages, disadvantages, and in what scenario which application is. So in this video, we're gonna focus mostly about planning tasks, both in waterfall and agile environment. And in other videos, we're gonna take it a step further, discuss resource management, configuration, and way more stuff. If during this presentation, during this video, there will be some things that I won't be able to address, maybe you have some more questions, please remember that you can reach out to us. We will try to help you as best as we can. We offer training sessions, we offer consultations, and we have a very good and proven implementation process of the tools. So we will be able to help you to choose the right tool for you and plan the steps to start actually using the tool in an efficient manner. Okay, with all that said, let's look at the tool. So I have over here cloud environment where I have both Advanced Roadmaps and BigPicture. So I will be switching between those two, and basically we will be operating at limited set of issues just so we can, clearly see what is changing, what is the impact of the things we're doing on the tickets. And in both tools, I have exactly the same set of tickets, right? So first, we're gonna look at the thing that in my view is a bit simpler to explain and to mention what are the differences, and that is waterfall planning. So in both tools, we have a timeline on which we can place issues, decide how long they are, and we can create links between the issues. In both tools, those links or those dependencies are represented on the ticket level as a link between two tickets, right? So this dependency is actually a link between issues. I think that in Advanced Roadmap by default this is the blocked link, and of course we can change it in the settings, but we'll leave it as it is for now. So when those dependencies are created, what now are the features? How can we work around them and with them in Advanced Roadmap? So obviously it shows us when possibly one issue should be done in relation to the other issue. Now, the one thing that I would expect in Advanced Roadmap that is not here is that when I move this issue over, I move it either by making it longer or just moving on a timeline, I would expect that this issue will be automatically moved with it, so that we have to start this issue after this one is ending. So yeah, it doesn't happen. I need to move those issues manually, and then it will work. You see that where the dependency cannot be respected, like here, are marked in red, so they are highlighted. We see that something is not right with them. The ones that are respected are gray, but there is no automatic update of dependent issues. So in cases where you will have like hundreds of issues that are connected with dependencies, it can be a bit of a pain to move each of them. Now, on the other hand, I'll switch to BigPicture. And by the way, both Advanced Roadmaps and BigPicture operates on custom fields. So basically when we update the ticket over here on the timeline, custom field with a start and end date, or actually custom fields with start and end date, are updated. We do not see the change that we did in Advanced Roadmap over here for two reasons. First of all, I did not approve the changes, so they were not reflected in issues. But anyway, for the purpose of this video, I configured this instance so that BigPicture and Advanced Roadmap here use different fields so that, yeah, I can have two separate timelines for the same set of issues. Anyway, here we can also create dependencies just by drag and dropping ends or these points that appear behind and after the bar representing ticket on the timeline when you hover over it. Now, the main differences are that here, first of all, we can create more types of issues. So in Advanced Roadmaps, we basically always had end to start type of dependency. Over here, we can have, for example, start to start. So that this will tell us that these two tickets have to will always begin at the same moment in time. So BigPicture is a bit more robust in that area. Each type of dependency is represented as different type of a link on the issue level. So we will see exactly how, in what way this issue is dependent or related to other one. Now, the second very important difference is that here, if we move one issue, actually it will impact all the other, right? So if we have like 500 issues that are dependent one on the other, yeah, basically BigPicture can automatically update all of them, so we won't have to do that manually. Of course, we can disable that feature, so if we switch to the manual mode, you will see that it behaves more closely to what we've seen in the Advanced Roadmap. So now we need to update all of these elements manually. And yeah, if one dependency cannot be respected, then it is highlighted. You may wonder why this was highlighted. It's, yeah, basically they do not start at the same moment in time, but also if we would do something like that, it would be highlighted despite the fact that this issue starts after this one. It looks pretty okay, right? But there are some more details to the dependency over here, and we can see that here there is an ASAP note telling us that the second issue should start as soon as possible after first one is finished. If we disable that, now this dependency will be correct. So yeah, you can see that already BigPicture has a bit more features around dependencies. In my view, this is a more robust way to approach that. And honestly, if someone is working purely waterfall, I would be more comfortable in suggesting BigPicture than Advanced Roadmaps, just because all these automatic updates and the fact that there is way more dependency types available, so we can plan some scenarios a bit better. Although there are things that Advanced Roadmaps has that BigPicture doesn't, and that is the dependency report. So let's go back to the Advanced Roadmap, and over here at the top we can switch to the dependencies report. So here you will see all the dependencies between all the issues that are in your plan, with information, of course, with highlight of dependencies that cannot be respected, or that are not respected at the moment. So from over here, we can locate this issue on the roadmap and try to fix this dependency. Of course, again, if you have to update 500 dependencies like that, it won't really be very nice, but still there are possibilities to track all that and everything that should change. And although I said that BigPicture doesn't have that kind of report, it also has some other interesting elements around dependencies. So let's switch back to BigPicture. You can see that over here we have info bar. One of the tabs of the info bar are dependencies info bar. So what we see here is we see all the dependencies grouped by dependency type. We see, yeah, basically some details about dependencies, and we can focus on target or the source task. So this will basically bring us to the right place on our timeline, and we can search for particular task to see all the dependencies connected to this task So yeah, I find it pretty useful, especially if you want to, for example, filter out everything that has connection with particular task that you know will be changing because we know we cannot deliver it on time, or maybe someone gets sick, or whatever the reason might be. So in my books, dependencies, BigPicture works a bit better, especially if you're working in waterfall. In Agile, we'll be talking about this in a moment. The differences are way smaller, and in Agile, dependencies are basically, in my view, the same in both tools. Okay, I did some cleaning up, so now we can have a look at how does the planning in Agile looks like. So let's start with Advanced Roadmaps. You can see that I have here tasks grouped by teams, and you can already see that these tasks are assigned to the sprints. The sprints are taken from one board that is in P1 project. And now we can either assign tasks to particular sprints over here. So let's quickly just select. You can see that it automatically changed over here. Of course, I need to approve the changes so it's reflected on a ticket level. But still, pretty easily I can assign task to the sprint. It will be reflected on issue level. We will see this also reflected on the board from which tasks are taken. So I will save this one. And this was task P130. Let's have a look at this. Sprint should be somewhere here. Yeah, P1 sprint 6. So this is exactly the one that we reassigned over here. So there is a two-way synchronization. You can do the planning on your board, assign task to sprints and see them move over here, or do this over here. So pretty easy from on the surface at least. Now, what are some difficulties? So again, this is something that for simple setups, like you have teams that are working on, that each team is working on their own board. It's very simple. It basically works out of the box. There is basically no configuration, maybe very little configuration needed. So you can see sprints over here, start assigning tasks and see how it looks on the timeline. Also, if you have more than one team, and these teams are working in different sprints, obviously you can create dependencies between those tasks and see over here how dependencies between those two tasks look like. Are they respected or not? Do we have to replan something? So on the surface, it's really nice. Some problems appear in a bit more advanced scenarios. So let's assume that over here, I will force this task to be assigned to some other sprint. Let me think what sprint this could be. P2 something. There are no matches. Okay, what I will do is I will assign in that case this task to my team Bisons. You can see now there is some funny things happening. You can see that over here we have P2 sprint 2. There is nothing like that over here, right? So it might be a bit confusing that you have sprint here, but you do not actually see where it is, to what sprint on the timeline it is assigned. It still behaves properly, so if I switch to sprint 1, it moves properly on the timeline. But yeah, these time boxes doesn't always reflect reality from the issues. And this is very specific scenario because I've taken the ticket from completely different board, but still it's so easy to reassign the team over here that this might actually happen. So it probably will happen. That being said, I think that for the scenarios where teams are working on single boards, so each team has its own board, or maybe even multiple teams are working on a single board, it works pretty nice, to the degree that the sprints can be even desynchronized. I mean that, like here, this one is not starting in the same moment in time as the sprints of Team Lions, yet we can assign tasks to both of them, create dependencies, and make sure that the dependencies are respected. The problems appear way more complex scenarios where teams are pulling in work from multiple different boards, and yeah, this is more complex, but also I've seen it happen, so I'm sure for some of you it will be an issue, and this is a scenario in which BigPicture works better. So let's switch to BigPicture and discuss how it works over here. Okay, so similar to what we've seen in Advanced Roadmaps, here we can also see the timeline. In BigPicture we can also see the timeline. We see above the timeline where our sprints start and end, and we see how does this sprint boxes, time boxes, are related to how the tasks are planned, right? So if the task is assigned to the sprint 5, it will appear under sprint 5 box, of course, provided that it is configured like that, because we could decouple this information. And if we would reassign this task to sprint 6, it would move over here on the timeline. So it looks pretty familiar to what we've seen before, but this is not the main module in BigPicture where agile planning is happening. So the major module that is interesting for us here is the board module. So over here we can see our sprints as the columns. In each column we have several swim lanes, one for tasks that are unassigned. By unassigned we understand the tasks that are assigned to the sprint but not to any team, and swim lanes for each particular team. So from this level we are able to do the planning for multiple sprints into the future, for multiple teams. And over here on the right, we have a backlog from which we can drag and drop tasks and assign them to specific sprint and specific team. When we are assigning that the tasks, we can also create dependencies. Now, these are different dependencies that we've seen on the Gantt chart. These are called soft dependencies. They are represented as blocks links between issues. So this is also, again, similar to what we've seen in Advanced Roadmaps. And why they are called soft? This is because when we move the issue so that dependency cannot be respected, so like that, BigPicture will still, sorry, not like that, let's say that like that. BigPicture will not force us to respect this dependency. It will just inform us via coloring or highlighting the dependency that, hey, maybe the order is wrong, you should do something about that. But we've seen in the Gantt that it basically, when we moved one issue, the all dependent ones were pushed into the future. Here it won't happen. We assign this P11 to sprint 6. This P30 will not be pushed to sprint 7. This is something that we have to do. But anyway, this is still synchronized. So when we did that, we will get back to the Gantt chart. You will see that the values over here changed and the issues moved on the timeline. We cannot see at the moment the dependency that we've seen in the moment. To do that, we need to show the soft dependency, and now we see that, yeah, it's like that. And over here, you see the one that cannot be respected, right? So we highlight this issue and this dependency gets visible. Okay, so what are the pros and cons of planning agile in BigPicture? So I need to start by saying that creating the configuration for BigPicture is a bit more complex. It's not as out of the box as in Advanced Roadmaps. Although in my view, it can cover more complex scenario cases. So when teams are really working on multiple boards, we still see sprints that are being done at the time by the team here as a single column, so it's a bit easier to read. When we move the task or when we assign the tasks from one team or the other, we do not have to worry about this. BigPicture will map this sprint 5 to proper sprint done by the team. So this is a strong suit of BigPicture. And another one, not entirely agile, but in my view it covers, is that BigPicture allows us to create hybrid approaches. So basically, we may have over here some tasks that are done agile, but also some other tasks in our project that are done in a waterfall approach. Let's say that our legal department is not working agile. They plan stuff more waterfall. We could have issues here that are planned normally on the timeline, connect them with hard or soft dependencies, depends what suits us better at the moment, with the tasks planned in agile. And then in the Gantt chart, we will see whole overview. So we will see tasks that are assigned to specific sprints, and what are the dependencies between them and between the tasks that are planned in waterfall approach. By moving the task in waterfall approach, we will be notified that, hey, we should replan the task in some sprint, or it will, moving from one sprint to the other with some waterfall task being dependent will cause this waterfall task to be moved. So this is something that Advanced Roadmap does not cover. This can be complex when it comes to setup. It really depends on how do you work with all these tasks, what should take priority, waterfall tasks, agile tasks, and so on. So so coming up with proper configuration may take a bit of a time, but in general, with BigPicture, I believe we'll able to cover more complex cases. So obviously, if you'll have a problems with that kind of scenarios, you can reach out to us. We'll try to help as best as we can to come up with proper configuration. And you need to remember that this is something that is usually done once, and later for quite a lot of time, the same configuration can be used, even reused across multiple projects, and it works really nice. On the other hand, Advanced Roadmaps, in my view, this is great tool if you're working agile and only agile, for easy to maybe intermediate complexity of use cases. Whether this is sufficient for you or not, this is something I'm not able to answer you in the video, but I hope that it gave you feel on what is possible and what are the strengths and weaknesses of each of these solutions in that area. Okay, so that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was helpful. In next video, we're gonna talk about the differences in resource management between those two tools. But if you'll have any questions, or maybe you would like us to address any other topics, drop us an email. We'll try to help you as best as we can. Take care.